What these numbers are telling me is, you're saying, you've been the appraiser, not you personally,
Right.
but the appraiser is saying that the value of my land is still the same, but all the structures I have are now worth less.
Well, that's why you say, if you look at the numbers there on the first sheet, the land stayed essentially the same. The buildings went down about 26%. The total assessed value, overall, that represents about a 16.5% decline in total assessed value.
But see, that's my question. Does that make sense? I mean, if my car goes down in value 20%, doesn't the entire car go down 20%?
Well, unfortunately,
my tires, John, are way bad, so that's a whole nother story. But I mean,
right.
Am I making a bad assumption that logically everything will go down in the same amount?
Well, unfortunately, we have to differentiate the value of land and improvements as two separate entities. If you went to sell your property, Mr. Thomas, you couldn't sell your house to Mr. Akers and your lot to Mr. Ashcraft.
Why not?
Well, I guess you could, but
you could, right? You could.
Typically,
as a matter of fact, my father-in-law lived in Baltimore, and he owned the house but paid ground rent.
Right. My folks lived up in Glen Burnie and did the same thing.
So you understand? So I could do that. That's not a good. Explain to me why my land is worth the same.
But when you look at that transaction at the courthouse, it might say Mr. Thomas sold his property for $145,000 or whatever, and we have to assign a portion of that value to the land and a portion to the house. Now, when we look at your land value as if vacant and unimproved and compare it against other lots that have been selling here in the county in the last couple of years, we don't see as much of a trend downward on that. So if we look at the land value component of that $145,000 sale, and previously that property was worth 200 and some thousand, now we have to say, well, where did we lose value? It had to be in the houses and or in the improvements. So that's just the only way we can slice the pie.
That just, all right, I'm not going to keep us all here, but to me, that just doesn't make sense, because you're saying this stayed the same, but this other piece dropped drastically. And 25% is a drastic drop to me.
Right.
I don't.
Well, if you look back, what happened, I think it's about the fourth page in 2006.
I really don't think we should go there, because you did that assessment too.
Right, but I'm just saying, at that time the market was rapidly increasing, and the land experienced a much more rapid increase during that time, in the time frame prior to 2006. So,
all right, I tried to say don't go there, but since you went there, I have never agreed, and you threatened to sue me, not you personally, but Blue Ridge, in the first time you did the assessment in the county, because I have never agreed with any of the assessments that you've done. So then you tell me in 2006, my land doubled or went up 2.5, and now you're telling me now my land is still worth the same. See, to me, it's purely math. Okay? It's
right.
Purely math. I'm trying to take all the personal part out of it. How can one piece stay the same and the other piece be drastically reduced? And by definition, the drastically reduced piece is called improvements. I mean, you could just say right now, you don't understand, and I'll move on.
Well, I mean, the measure of performance is the assessment sales price ratio, and we look at the ratio of all sales to their assessments. Now, some of the properties are improved, and some of the sales are vacant. But overall, in that 229 sales, we're looking at our bottom line number versus what those properties sold for. And right now, our assessments are right in line with what those properties were selling for in this year in 2010. And that's all we can do.
I'll leave it alone now. I'm sure we'll have more discussion. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
You get a chance to go to the Board of Reassessment.
Can I go this time, Ms. Carter? Okay.
I have one question, Mr. Mozell.
Excuse me for interjecting here, but state law requires that we assess land and improvements.
Right.
We have to separate them. We have to. So there is sometimes a difference in how raw land is selling, regular land, and then improvements. But we've got to show them as two different taxable items.
I would understand that, but if my tax bill were $100,000, because I need easy math, if my land and my house was worth $100,000, and now you're telling me my land and my house is worth $75,000, because it went down 25%, the land is still worth the same amount of money, my house is the only thing that went down. And as a numbers guy, that just doesn't make sense to me.
But if your
No,
lot...
we don't tax based on land and house, so it really,
It doesn't matter.
the point for tax purposes is not.
But let's suppose 5 years ago, your lot was assessed for $25,000.
I keep trying to tell you don't go there, but you keep going there, don't you?
Well, okay, but I'm saying, and in today's market, that lot is still selling for $25,000. Then there's no reason to make an adjustment.
I'm not going to say anything else. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
All right. I have one, Mr. Seeley.
Mhm.
And I want to go back down the taxable parcels.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, what that actually meant. Can you go down those again?
The class 1 is your urban residential. Primarily, that would be the town of Bowling Green. Class 2 is what's called suburban residential. That's everything up to 20 acres in size.
Raider Bowling.
Class 3 is multifamily. Class 4 is commercial and industrial. Class 5 is agricultural up to 100 acres, from 20 to 100 acres. And Class 6 is agricultural greater than 100 acres. And it's somewhat confusing because if a large acreage landowner owns 4 or 5 pieces of property that together might equal 600 acres, some of it might be less than 28. One individual parcel may be less than 20 acres, and it may be included up in the Class 2 section. So, and then the non-taxable are the different categories of state government and of educational and federal government and that sort of thing.
Okay. Is that everything you need, Mr. Seeley? Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. I think it's all the questions that we had. We appreciate the update.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize, my project supervisor, Eric Piner, couldn't be here tonight. He had an obligation with the Virginia Defense Force. So if you all have any questions after the meeting and you want further clarification, please pass them on to Mr. Parton or Mr. Ashcroft or Ms. Carter, and I'll have Eric,
Do you have a phone number or something you can leave with Mr. Parton, and so we can contact you if we need to?
Yeah, I think they have our phone numbers and everything. Okay?
All right.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. You too.
And next, we have the Sheriff Lipper, who's going to discuss his proposal for our considerations for the Carmel Church area. Sheriff Lipper, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Rozelle, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair. Board members, first and foremost, I want to thank you all again for the support that you give us for the Sheriff's Office and Public Safety. I can't thank you all enough for that. I know Scott Shropshire is still here, and in doing so with the Carmel Church interchange, and I'm hoping Scott and them will still invite me to some of the meetings that the subcontractors have so I can keep you all informed of the project down there. My biggest concern is the completion, and I know that the board has gone through a difference from when it was first projected out. I want to thank staff for allowing me to meet with Mr. Elliott. Mr. Parton and I spoke with him, and that brings me to you guys for a concern that I have. When they're talking about this left turn that's going through there, that's for cars only, and that's going to Love's is supposed to be cars only right, then it's going to be an enforcement issue. I know they're going to put all the markings and stuff like that. I share the same concerns as far as if a truck gets hung up in there, what problems are we going to have? Now, I know I can't speak for Mr. Shropshire, but all of us are there for the safety aspect. And before they took down the old traffic signal that was up there, because we feel that a traffic signal would be very beneficial to allow people to make that left turn into the old Petro and Mr. Fuel End, stop in westbound just to allow that flow. Now, we'll see when this project comes about. My concern was, Mr. Elliott was saying that if that does not work, then they're going to scrap the whole thing and it's all moving down, which originally was set. I just don't want to set us up for failure. I don't want to set us up for traffic crashes. I know the deputies have been working around the clock by putting, as Mr. Thomas wanted, a spare car down there to help deter some of the illegal U-turns and to prevent from any crashes. Just thought I'd let you know from a humor side, they must have figured that out because they did a nice smiley face on it, as I was told today. So
Monday.
okay, so in essence, we've taken care of that. So with the traffic issues that we might have there, and also Mr. Akers in your area with Green Road, when that was brought to my attention, and we went out there and did not see that reduced speed limit ahead, we stopped issuing summonses. For those that might have received a summons for that, then I would suggest that they give us a call or go to court with that, as we will correct the problem there. And the same thing, and I will commend Mr. Shropshire because it was September 3rd, Labor Day weekend, when we first met because of the lack of signage, and VDOT did jump on that really quick. I know they have ordered the signs, and hopefully that will iron itself out. Last but not least, just wanted to bring you up on some neat things that I consider that's coming along here. The Citizens Police Academy is being held again tonight. That's working very well, and they'll do firearms. I know Miss Portia Smith enjoyed the firearms from Fort A.P. Hill, and that's going to be on the 23rd. So if y'all would like to come out to see some of the police firearms or shoot, then we'll need to get some other information from legal name and Social Security by the 15th of this month. Also, the HEAT program, we're going to be involved with that.
Is it the 23rd?
Yes, sir. That's a Saturday. And we are going to have the HEAT program. We're going to be participating in that. That's the state police that will come, and we're going to have them slated at least 3 times coming to the Caroline County area. Hopefully the 4th. The first time we should get them is in April. We're going to try to hook up our annual DARE show so that we can do this during spring break at the high school. They will be doing all the vehicle etching to help prevent car thefts. Then we're hoping that we're going to be able to bring it during National Night Out up in the Ladysmith area. And then we're hoping to have it for the Harvest Festival here in Bowling Green. And then also down at Frog Level next year. So, Mr. Rozelle, if we can get with your contacts there, all this will be in 2011. So, thank you all again very much. And if you have any questions on anything, please give me a call.
All right.
Good.
Thank you, Sheriff. We do appreciate those updates, and you know, maybe we do need to make sure we get with Quentin Elliott and make sure we kind of finalize what we can do at Bear Common Church. May require a meeting of us all. I'm not sure, but Ms. Ashcraft may want to follow up with Mrs. Shropshire and Quentin Elliott to see what we need to do to make sure we articulate what the sheriff is talking about, you know, what our staff believes, and also what the VDOT folks think is appropriate. Okay? Thank you, sir. All right. Next, we have the liaison reports. As far as education and public safety, we will do need to reschedule our joint meeting with the school board to follow up on the the CIP project, so we can, for the first time, take a good look at the CIP projects that the school board would like to present to the board. And
Oh, thank you so much. So kind.
also on the fire rescue side, the department did receive a $1,700 hazmat grant this past month from the state of Virginia. We also participated in multiple training exercises, and also have been working with some of our emergency management response plans. And for the month, we had 166 fire calls, 317 EMS calls during July. And Thursday was the busiest day for the month. And fire units also logged 160 hours and 42 minutes, and EMS units logged 497 hours and 17 minutes. And as far as the state fair events, really I think it wasn't, really didn't have anything very serious from the state fair, and things all went pretty smooth from that large event. And that's all I have to report at this time. We do have the communications technology and public works. No.
Oh, okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, for communications and technology, you didn't hear from the folks at Comcast, and I'm sure they'll be available for our next meeting. We are getting, or I would like to commend the folks at MetroCast who have done a great job in expansion as far as their cable and internet access, but that's basically been between Port Royal and the town of Bowling Green and the greater Bowling Green area, which is about 6 or 7 blocks around the town and going up Route 2 a little bit. So they have done a good thing. I just wanted to commend them, and I do appreciate their expansion. Mr. Wilson and I met, the dates kind of run together, a couple of weeks ago with a business prospect who wanted to enter into a public-private partnership with the county to possibly provide internet service along the Route 1, Ladysmith, Carmel Church, Caroline Pines possible area. I signed a non-disclosure agreement with them. I haven't really seen their business plan yet, but I'm not going to mention them now. We'll see how that works out. I think there's some other issues there. So that's kind of where we stand still with that same issue. And in spite of a lot of effort and work on a lot of people's part, we seem to get to the point of close to doing something and never quite finding the funding to do it. So we're still working on that. With respect to Public Works, there's a couple of highlights. The Port Royal Visitor Center, there's a building permit has been received. VDOT is doing some work with the staff there. The former Commissioner of Revenue's office, not to be referred to as the old Commissioner of Revenue's office, but the former Commissioner of Revenue's office, has been turned over from the county after the county did some work there for painting and tidying it up to the Caroline County Museum and Cultural Center. And to steal a little bit of Mr. Seeley's thunder, they will have an exhibit this weekend as part of the Bowling Green Harpers Festival. And I see the folks from the Dawn Library, but we have bids received and presented, 723. We're actually working on that. I don't know if you folks have more to add later, or you're just here for some other reasons, but that's kind of where we are there. And then we're going to have recommendations on the cannery in November. And with respect to the convenience sites, although I haven't received any, Mr. Parton and I guess the Public Works Department has mentioned that they're still getting a few complaints about being closed on Sunday morning. And I think that's it. There's been some cleanup work there, but that's it.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman, the Finance, Recreation, and Planning.
Mr. Chairman, I'll start with the planning. The Federal Transit Administration has approved the alternatives analysis for the multimodal transportation station study at Carmel Church and agreed to allocate the funds. Once final agreement with the developer for the payment of the local match is completed and executed by all parties, the FTA will issue the notice to proceed with this study. That's good news for the county and good news for the Common Church Station, rail station. And there are other things here on the planning, but I reported about 2 weeks ago, and it's pretty much the same information, so I don't want to hash it over again. The Finance Department, of course, Fran has been busy continuing to work to reconcile in preparation for the 2010 audit. The preliminary field work began on July 14th, and we anticipate closing the June and the end of year by mid-October. She's also working with several departments on the purchasing policy, and once it has been approved, we'll be able to go to bid on a purchasing card system. The fuel bid for the county and the school system was due on September the 17th. We received one bid, and I believe that's on the agenda tonight. The recreation area, registration is currently being accepted for school-age boys and girls between the ages of 5 and 18 to participate in the winter sport, winter youth basketball program. Because of the number of participants that come from the Ladysmith area, a special registration sign-up day will be held at the Diversified Learning Center, the old Ladysmith Elementary Center, at 5:30 to 7 o'clock on Monday, November the 1st. The Special Olympics soccer event was held on October the 9th, and with 11 teams accommodating over 150 participants. And I believe that's the youth football teams are scheduled to play their last regular season home game on Saturday, October the 23rd at the high school. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, economic development, utilities in town of Port Royal.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I want to start off with economic development. As it's some exciting things are happening in the county right now. In case people haven't noticed, there's a new secretariat moving out, and of course that affects us directly with the state fair, and also it being from Caroline County and set there. Also, a new book about secretariat has been released and is on sale in our visitor center. Germano has asked our cooperation in sending out surveys for business education needs, so that they can offer courses that better serves our business community. So that's pretty exciting for us as well. We are also currently working with a landowner on trying to, with his site, and trying to attract technology firms. So there again are some more good things coming out. I think Gary and his staff will be quite busy with. McKesson, of course, is another thing. They had the groundbreaking on the 6th, and from what I've heard, that fortunately I was unable to attend that, but the executives were pleased with the site, the community, and we're looking forward to having them as one of our new neighbors here. Some interesting facts, though. McKesson, the investment is the largest square foot investment in Virginia. It is also the fourth largest jobs announcement in the state of Virginia, and the 11th largest financial investment in the state of Virginia. So just some interesting facts. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman, and we'll keep moving.
All right, town of Bowling Green.
I guess the one big piece of news is Harvest Festival is this weekend, and the weather looks good, so everybody seems pretty excited, and the town's gearing up.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Seeley. All right, next item, we have the appointments, Industrial Development Authority for Madison District, Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't realize that his term had expired until I saw this, and I have not had a chance to talk with the person that's in the position now to see if he wishes to continue to serve or not. He does, wishes to continue to serve. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Millard Smith.
Second.
All right, motion made, proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed say. Motion carried. Planning Commission, Bowling Green District. Mr. Seeley, how you like to dispose?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Pylan has actually requested to retire from this position after a long period of time. And I would like to nominate Les Stanley to replace him.
Second.
What's the name?
Les Stanley?
How'd you let Mr. Nyland retire?
Okay, motion made and probably second that we appoint Les Stanley to the Planning Commission for the Bowling Green District. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. All right, motion carries. Consent agenda items. Members have items to withdraw or pull?
I'd like to talk about items C, G, and I.
Okay, you want to just talk about them?
Well, item C in particular, the new assessed value will be retroactive to January 1, 2010. I believe that should be 2011.
Yeah. Mr. Ashcraft? Mr. Parton, you have the,
We got that. That's right, isn't it? Right. We're extending the deadline to March 31st.
But the property value should go back. The deadline will be in March, but the property values will be retroactive to January of the same
2011.
year. Of the same year, and there appears to be a typo, because in our packet it says 2010.
That's correct. It's 2011. It's a typo if it says 2010.
That's what, so you're right.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Parton.
Yours is right.
Okay.
So C is okay?
Just,
For G?
we just need to make that correction in our, because our package says 2010.
Okay. Board members made that correction?
We should really do vote on the other ones first and then do.
Well, if you'd like to make that motion, go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, can we go ahead and vote on A, B, now C, D, E, F, H, J, and K?
Okay, unless,
Motion, is that a motion for
That's a motion for approval for those.
second?
okay, motion for approval for A, B, C, D, E, F, H, J, and K.
Yes, sir.
All right, motion made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Motion carried. Okay, would you, item G.
In our motion, in the motion from the last board meeting, I don't remember what the amount was, but then I saw the additional of a $50,000 for cost assurance, and I was just curious what that was and where that was going to come from.
Is that correct?
Okay, Mr. Rogers? Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Rogers, how are you today, sir?
You say cost of issuance, is that,
That's what it says.
and that was added on, I'm sorry, I didn't see an original, so just, if you would, repeat what your
It
question.
says a total has been committed for the project of $700,000. The additional,
The additional 50,000 is your cost of issuance to basically get the financing taken care of.
That's the cost of us getting the bond. That's
Right.
the cost for
Yes,
us
sir.
to get the bond.
Right, right. The project cost is $700,000, just like the project cost for the schools or utility projects or whatnot.
so is this a one-time fee, or is it?
Yes,
So it's a fee?
it's added into the debt amount, just like every other issuance.
It
that
would be
we've done.
like points on a home mortgage.
Correct. Right, it's an upfront cost. It's not an ongoing cost.
Okay.
All right, other questions?
Aye.
What was the other one? No,
Well, let's
aye.
finish.
Aye.
Aye.
You want to do them one at a time?
Because we're good on those.
Okay,
Might as well do aye.
you aye. You have a question on
Yes, sir.
Well,
I guess this is a Mr. Rogers question. We're doing a refinancing of 2001A that you have listed as $3,725,000. And that's utility, correct?
Correct.
But in the list that we have for the resolution in agenda item number 6, I don't see that one listed at all in terms of the value. 2001A is $10,680,000.
Item number 6, yeah, this is, you might recall that we've already refinanced part of the 2001 bonds. That was done last fall, I believe it's when we did it. At that time, the bonds that we're looking at now did not make economic sense to refinance. The market has gotten better, and so now VRA has looked at them and come to us and said, these will make sense based on what we're seeing in the marketplace. So this is basically refinancing the balance or the longer piece of the 2001s that we didn't do.
So 2001A isn't, I mean, it adds up to $10,860,000, but it's in pieces?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have what you're looking at, so I'm a little... Are you asking what is outstanding right now of the 2001s? Is that your question?
I guess I'm confused as to what we're actually refinancing, because it doesn't add up from what, again, in the resolution,
Okay.
we list each bond separately. At least I thought they were separately. If you look on page A2 of agenda item number 6, you'll see the list of all the bonds that are utility.
It's A3. It's back here. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
It was 10.
Okay, and this is really more of a legal question, but I'm going to answer the question. This is the original amount of the 2001 bonds. That's the way, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the way legally they have to be listed in these types of documents. So this is the original amount. That's not the currently outstanding amount. Does that make sense? So if you have an original bond issue of $20 million, and you've refinanced 19 million of it, you've got $1 million left over, but it would be listed here as 20 million because that was the original debt amount.
And I guess that
That's
was
for legal tracking purposes so that they make sure they've got the right issue.
Okay, so that takes me to my next part of my question. We've paid on this bond since 2001, correct?
Right.
So in the first 10 years, all we pay is mostly interest. Is that not true?
No, there's principal being amortized on that particular loan. We amortized it over what's called level payments. It's just like on your home mortgage, you're paying a level payment each month. Yes, at the front of a loan, you're paying more interest than principal, and over time it narrows
Right,
down.
it narrows down.
Right.
So we've paid mostly interest on that loan at this point.
More interest than principal.
And that loan rate is currently at what?
The current rate, I don't know the exact rate of mine.
I mean,
Off the
is
top of my
it
head.
6 or 7, and we're going down to 4?
It's probably more like in 2001. I'd say it's probably more like 5.5 to 6.
And we're going. And what interest rate are we hoping to get when we do this?
Don't know the exact number. I'm going to say it's going to be probably in the 4 range. Can I give you where the savings numbers is? That's the numbers. That's the amount that I have. I mean, the market moves, but this is the estimate right now. On $3 million is the amount that we're talking about. Roughly, will be the new size of the issue. We're going to save $495,000. So basically, a third of the principal. You're going to be saving approximately $500,000 over the life of this loan.
And how long's the loan?
It originally was 30 years.
And what are we going to now?
Same thing. We're not changing that. We're just basically, we're saving money. We're basically refinancing and saving it over the same time period. We're not lengthening it. We're not shortening it.
But we're going 30 years from today's date.
No.
So
The
it's still
original
the
loan
same?
was 30 years, and so it'll be the same
So if we
ending
have
point.
20 years left, we only have 20 years left when we do this?
Correct.
And we
That's
get
right.
400 and some thousand dollars.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
I was just trying to
Right.
match up what is in this resolution and what we're actually trying to
Right.
refinance.
Yeah, this is basically what we call a matched maturity. We're matching up the old maturities with the new maturity. We're not extending it or shortening it. And we're going to take the savings level, meaning we're not front-loading it or back-loading the savings. Just as we can take the savings, as much as we can take, we take it level.
That $400,000 wasn't in the amount that Davenport reported back to me and Mrs. Hatcher a couple of weeks ago? This is like a new savings that's just come up.
Yeah, in terms of anything you've seen from us, we never count on a refunding until after it happens. So if
Okay.
you're talking about the existing debt service that we've talked about or anything like that, we never would count on it until it happens.
Yeah, we did a lot of refinancing, and I think as of a couple of weeks ago, we had saved
I'm sorry.
$800,000 in refinancing.
I don't
So-
think we had this.
So now you're saying
No,
this
I don't think we
400's
did.
not
We
in
didn't.
there.
Right.
So now,
That's in addition. This
now
would be
you're
in
saying we
addition.
saved $1.2 million in some of this refinancing.
The market, if the market holds in there and we can get, this number could grow, it could shrink.
Okay. 6.5 sticks in my head. I don't know why, 'cause, I mean, you know better than I would, but 6.5 sticks in my head.
Yeah, either over time, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And the other thing to keep in mind, one of the things, and this is true for all refundings, in the municipal business, when you're looking at mortgages, you look at it differently. But in the municipal industry, we look at a net present value savings number, and if at least it's 3% of the amount of bonds we're taking out, then that's generally, that makes sense to go forward. If it's less than that, then with all the costs, and this is net of costs, if it's less than that, then we're not going to bring it to you. It doesn't make sense to go forward with it. This one's producing 7.5%, so it's well above the standard guideline that everyone in the state uses for savings purposes.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing this to us,
Sorry,
Mr.
I'm
Rogers.
sorry I
We-
didn't
we
have
appreciate that.
all the information right here to answer it quickly.
Okay, that's, board members, how you like to proceed with the consent agenda?
I make a motion to accept item G and I.
Second?
Okay.
Motion made and probably second to accept G and I. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed? And I will abstain. Okay, you got all ayes, one abstain. Okay, that takes us to 7:30. We will take a 10-minute recess, and we'll return. Reconvene the Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting. And first, we have a presentation this evening regarding the revenue derived from the county utility system. And Mr. Ashcraft will make that presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. In just a few minutes, there's going to be a public hearing on a major utility investment in the Caroline County's infrastructure. It's a policy decision the board will have under its consideration. In advance of that public hearing, staff thought it was important that we revisit this summary of the capital benefits of utility investment in Caroline County that was prepared in May of this year. As you can see, just from the summary, a technology zone, Caroline County, Virginia, all the investments that we make in Caroline County are made for a purpose, and they're made for futuristic purposes and not just for the short term, as you'll see in the slides to come. The first slide begins with real estate tax revenues that have been collected within the utility service area from 1990 to the present year. In Carmel Church alone, $6,789,504.61 were collected at the time of this report. In the Ladysmith utility service area, $2,259,458.15. That's a total of over $9 million that have been collected in real estate tax revenues that are directly within the utility service area of Carmel Church and Ladysmith. Breaking it down a little bit further, you see the real estate tax revenues between 1990 and 2010, as I said earlier. And if you look at the bottom part, and I hope everyone in the audience can see this, the Carmel Church real estate tax revenues grew from $90,823 in the year 1990 to $991,706 in year 2010. That's a 992% increase directly related to the utility area in Carmel Church. In Ladysmith, over the same period, you see the tax revenue grew from what at that time was a modest $16,998 in 1990 to $679,060 in the current year. That's a 3,895% increase. Now, Carmel Church and Ladysmith collections in 2010, the real estate revenues, $1,670,766. In 1990, they were $107,000, almost $108,000. That's a 1,450% increase over 20 years. I'll show you some pictures from time to time. The Farmers Home Cooperative that's located along Route 1. That was a project that was directly related to utility investment. They located here, and it made it much easier for them to locate their offices here because of that, and their store here because of that investment. The next slide is real estate tax value growth within the utility service area, again from the same period. In Carmel Church, $1,095,103,660. In Ladysmith, $1,839,760. That's a total of almost $1.5 billion in real estate tax value growth over 20 years. That's beyond inflation. Breaking it down further, the Carmel Church real estate assessed values, $14,648,910 to, $187,114, or $187,114,500. That's a 1,177% expansion over that 20-year period. Ladysmith, again, grew from $2,741,670 to $128,124,700, a 4,573% expansion over that 20-year period. And these bars and graphs, you can see the various increases as the years have gone on. Carmel Church and Ladysmith values in 2010, $315,239,200. Carmel Church and Ladysmith real estate values in 1990 were only $17,390,580. The growth in revenues over that 20-year period, 1,713%. Food Lion Shopping Center, another investment in utilities that attracted a major food chain into Caroline in that part of the county that was not there as of 1990, or excuse me, as of 2000. Additional general fund revenues that grew in the utilities investment areas of Carmel Church and Ladysmith. Union Bankshares Corporation locating their corporate offices off of Route 1 in their business park. That's an investment that they made as a result of the utilities being in that area. Personal property assessments, which include businesses, grew in the utilities investment areas. If you look at the chart from year 1990 through 2010, You see the personal property value assessments grew from $93,920 in